Golden State Media Concepts Fantasy Football Podcast is your one-stop shop for fantasy football news and advice. Can't decide on who to draft on the first round? Going gaga on how to line up your team. We've got you covered. Traditional leagues, dynasty leagues, PPR leagues, IDP league, even daily fantasy football league. Join us as we break down all the questions of fantasy football. It's the Golden State Media Concepts Fantasy Football Podcast.
What is good, ladies and gentlemen? How are y'all doing today? Back for another episode of the GSMC Fantasy Football Podcast. What else? My name is Austin. I am your host. Super excited to be here on this Friday. If y'all don't know, Friday is my favorite episode of the week because we will be talking matchups all day for the next hour at least. Guys, I got 12 fantasy football players that I think have a really good shot at having big days either on Sunday or Monday in this upcoming week 4, and I'm just super excited to bring it to y'all. We'll be live, guys, 7 p.m. Mountain Time every single day, every single weekday, that is, Monday through Friday. And I just appreciate y'all for tuning in. If you're here with me, Friday matchup episode brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. My name is Austin, so let's just get right into it. I'm only bringing y'all wide receivers, running backs, and quarterbacks today. I didn't even mention at the very end, we'll be taking these 12 guys, the 12 guys that, I have identified have a really good matchup for this week 4. We're going to take a couple of them and throw them into my best bets. Last week went 4 for 5 in my best bets. Now, this week, I'm looking to go 4 for 4. I got 4 best bets at the end of the episode. If you guys stay to the end, you get to hear about my best bets for week 4. So definitely stay for that. If you guys don't watch any other episode all week, this is definitely the one to tune into. Also, like and subscribe. Patreon, link in the bio. If y'all want to drop a tip, feel so generous, you can do that right at the streamelements.com/GSMC Sports Network. Let's get right into it, though. Talk about my wide receivers, my favorite matchups at wide receiver for week 4. And my first guy, the guy who I think has one of the best matchups of the week, is going to be Stephon Diggs going up against the Miami Dolphins. Stephon Diggs popping off right now, having a great season, already 2 100-plus yard games to start. Let's get over to the graphic. Yeah. No, we're not in best bets yet. Talking wide receiver matchups, and we're talking about Stephon Diggs, man. This dude's very, very good. 2 100-plus yard games and 2 12-plus target games to start the 2023 season. Going up against a divisional opponent who they see very often in the Miami Dolphins. Definitely think that the Bills know their game plan and how they're going to attack here. Think that Diggs is going to be a very big part of that game plan, setting them up, getting the, making sure they can't just sit down on these short routes. Got to respect Diggs going deep, stuff like that. Diggs currently wide receiver number 7 in fantasy, and obviously the Miami Dolphins had acquired Jalen Ramsey to come and play for their squad, but he is hurt right now, so their DB room, the Miami Dolphins DB room, is looking a little bit thin at corner at least, and it seems like Diggs is going to primarily be matching up against Xavier Howard, who has recorded very bad coverage games and very bad coverage grades, according to Pro Football Focus. So, love that for Diggs. Diggs looking very elite, and he also has a superhuman quarterback in Josh Allen to get him the ball. He is that superhuman quarterback's favorite target, too, which is just amazing in his kind of history against the Dolphins, because obviously, like I said, it's a divisional opponent. They do see each other a lot. He's only had one monster game where he went 150 yards and a touchdown, but had multiple pretty good games versus the Dolphins. 4 touchdowns in the last 7 games against them. And Josh Allen has looked absolutely fantastic in his last 2 against the Dolphins. Kind of look like he's figured that defense out a little bit, and it's just going to be whoever has the ball last type of game to see who's going to win that one. But he does have 2 300-yard games in his last 2 versus this Dolphin squad. Dolphins haven't really even been tested as it pertains to like seeing a really good quarterback. Obviously, they did play Justin Herbert, but Justin Herbert kind of got off against them, had like, over 200 something yards, touchdown, and it was like a 34-36 game. So obviously they were putting up points too. And their defense really has only looked good against Denver, who we can't give any credit to Denver yet, and New England, who I think is just like the most, the exact definition of a middle-of-the-pack type team. So I do like Stephon Diggs in this matchup. Also like Josh Allen to have a big, big day too. Let's go to my next guy. Talking about the best wide receiver in the league, hands down. When we're just talking about skill, playmaking is probably Tyreek, but Justin Jefferson, man, can't say enough good things about this guy. Wide receiver number 3 right now in fantasy football, and he's going up against the Carolina Panthers this week. And this is definitely one of my favorite matchups of the entire week. I think Justin Jefferson has the potential to put on a very big show in North Carolina this upcoming week. Just a little bit of history on his 2023 season. Week 1, 25 fantasy points, 12 targets, 150 yards receiving. Week 2, 24.9 fantasy points, 13 targets, 159 yards receiving. Week 4, 27.9 fantasy points on 13 targets, 149 yards receiving. He also got his first touchdown in that Week 3 matchup as well. And the reason that I like the Panthers to give it up to Justin Jefferson is because we've seen it all happen before in very similar spots this season so far. Chris Olave started Week 2, 104 yards. DK Metcalf came back in Week 3, put up 112. I really think that Justin Jefferson is probably 2 times the receiver of Chris Olave and DK Metcalf, and the Panthers just simply can't handle. Their DB room is looking very thin as well themselves. Can't really handle that top receiving talent, it seems, with not being able to contain DK Metcalf at all, and Olave getting free in the second half. I imagine that, Vikings coach has been looking on this film and seeing ways to get his best guy open, and that's absolutely what they're going to be looking to do. On the same side of this coin, the Panthers defense hasn't even seen like a guy who would be considered an elite quarterback yet. I guess they saw Geno Smith, and he put up almost 300 yards, or he did put up 300 yards against them. Now Kirk Cousins, who's looking like he's playing better than he ever has, gets to come in and feast on this secondary and has Justin Jefferson at his disposal along with all of his other wide receiving weapons. I don't see how the Vikings don't get this one done on Sunday. Last guy that I want to speak on real quick as it pertains to wide receiver, and this is a bit of a sleeper pick. You know me, I like to kind of stray away from public opinion and what everybody else is thinking at the moment. But I got Michael Pittman Jr. here, and he'll be playing against the Rams. We do believe that Anthony Richardson is going to be in the game playing, and this is just another bad DB group in general for this Rams squad. Their cornerback number 1 is a rookie, Darion Kendrick, and I've seen him get cooked multiple times already in this 2023 season. They actually currently rank on Pro Football Focus as the worst coverage in the entire league, so I'd love to see that for this number 1 wide receiver. Got a rookie with a very strong arm. Think that there will be a lot of plays to be made for Michael Pittman Jr. in this matchup for sure. Defense for the Rams was kind of holding receivers in check, even with these bad grades that they were turning in, until Jamar Chase went absolutely electric. 12 receptions, 141 yards for Jamar in his first good game that he's had at all. So I feel like if that says anything, they probably as well cannot handle that top talent, that top wide receiver talent that is in the league right now. And I don't know if Pittman necessarily fits into that mold of being like a S tier or type receiver, like in that type of realm, but he is wide receiver 10 in fantasy right now. He's been hooping, most definitely. Very obviously the wide receiver 1 for the Colts too. Week 1, 11 targets. Week 2, 12 targets. Week 3, 11 targets again, and this is with quarterbacks switching. Obviously Anthony Richardson played the first one, then we got Minshew, Anthony Richardson played the first 2, and then we got Minshew. So even with Minshew in, he still got the 11 targets. He's currently getting an average matchup grade, but I'm straying from the pack here. I definitely think that his size and athleticism, he absolutely has potential to catch a touchdown this week. He's taller and stronger than all of their DBs, all their corners for sure. So I really like Michael Pittman this week as well for my wide receivers. Guys, when I come back, we're going to be talking about running backs, my favorite running back matchups, and definitely talking about some interesting guys here. Not all just the top talent, but definitely some of the top talent, because I think that they just have a beautiful matchup. So come back with me, and we can talk about that. What is good, ladies and gentlemen? We are back talking about my favorite running back matchups for this week 4 in the NFL. So let's pull it up. Super excited to talk about these guys that I think are going to have absolute days. And I got to start with the hometown hero, Christian McCaffrey. Naturally, this guy's on a tear. We got 12 touchdowns in a row for Christian McCaffrey, 12-game touchdown streak. If you would have rolled that over the past 12 games, your winnings, you put I think it was $10 or something, you would have been at $78K. So something to think about for sure. Make sure you guys tune in. Friday matchup episode. I'm very excited, but beautiful matchup for Christian McCaffrey. I think he's going to have an absolute day against this Arizona Cardinals team. I don't see how he doesn't continue this touchdown streak to get to 13 games or 12 games, wherever we're at right now. Can't believe it when I saw that stat. If you would have just rolled over his touchdowns, it's super crazy. As far as Christian McCaffrey's history against these Arizona Cardinals, he hasn't really popped off in previous matchups where he played against them while he was playing for the San Francisco 49ers. But looking deeper into the stats, it's only because he was sharing a little bit of time with Elijah Mitchell throughout that. Elijah Mitchell in one of these matchups versus the Cardinals, he also scored 2 touchdowns, so taking away fantasy points, taking away value for Christian McCaffrey, but that doesn't seem to be happening this year. They seem to be just very content to let Christian McCaffrey run all over the field and take the entire workload, so I'm very happy with that. Love him in weekly fantasy this week. Love him in daily fantasy on Sunday for sure, too. He is the current running back 2 in fantasy football as well. He's only behind Raheem Mostert, who is only number 1 because he put up, a 4-touchdown week in week 3 after putting up some pretty good weeks in weeks 1 and 2. So technically I would say that, if Raheem Mostert didn't play against the Denver Broncos in week 3, most likely Christian McCaffrey would be the running back 1 in fantasy football. But it's absolutely crazy. What did I write down here? The Arizona Cardinals have been getting absolutely dogged by running backs this so far this season. Absolutely dogged. Saquon, 92 yards from scrimmage and 2 touchdowns against them, and then Pollard went for 23 carries and 122 yards. So if that's any sign for what's to come for Christian McCaffrey, I think that we have a really good matchup on our hands for him. He obviously has a great O-line, a great offense that, they got to worry about everybody on that team. And you can't really just hone in on this guy, even though he is technically probably the best guy. I think he's the best running back in the league, in my opinion. He's going to be coming for heads this week, and I'm very excited to see it carry that touchdown streak to 12 or 13 or whatever it's at. And it's just crazy to see that for Arizona. They're like pretty banged up. Best player, Budda Baker on IR. Just be ready for a murder scene type game for this 49ers-Cardinals matchup. For my next running back, going to be talking about a guy who's been amazing in the league for forever at this point. And I got Derrick Henry here going up against the Cincinnati Bengals in Cincinnati, I do believe it will be at. I'm losing my spot. Derrick Henry going up against Cincinnati Bengals. Super excited for this one. Goodness gracious. The good part is that his comparison, the guy who I would compare him most to, which would be Nick Chubb, had a really good day against these Cincinnati Bengals in week 1 before he had that gruesome injury. Bengals just seem pretty liable to give it up to, the top talent in the league. These big bruising running backs just kind of get through the hole and find those 5 or 6 yards against this Bengals team. Henry said after his 27-3 loss that he had just faced last week, it kind of fueled the fire for him, and that he's even more locked in right now. But he also said that he's just always locked in, but he's definitely locked in for this week. And I really do believe that he could find a way to have a good day. He hasn't had one good day so far throughout the season. And I can't expect that to continue for much longer. Currently listed as the running back 21 in fantasy football. And I just think he's bound to break out and have a 100-yard game within the next couple of weeks. So why not this week for Derrick Henry against a pretty average defense, pretty average linebackers in NFL terms? Why not him to have a really good day and maybe break 100 or something? It wouldn't be the first time that Derrick Henry broke 100 yards, I will tell you that. The problem with him, though, is he can unfortunately get lost in the game script, where if the Titans find a way to get down early, they start passing the ball, he's a non-threat receiving, unless it's like a very certain type of situation. He's been a little better in the receiving game this far through the season, but they used him none in their loss versus the Browns in week 3. So the game script can really kill this guy. So I trust that Ryan Tannehill will be able to, kind of take care of business. We haven't seen the best games out of, the Joe Burrow-Jamar Chase connection or the Cincinnati Bengals as a whole at all. We haven't really seen anything good from them. Derrick Henry is still one of the most powerful backs in the league, and if Ryan Tannehill is able to keep this Titans team in the game, then I think Derrick Henry could definitely pop off and have a really big game. Finally, for my last running back, and I feel like there's not enough hype around this guy, even as much hype as there is. Dude's been going absolutely dumb. And this is DeAndre Swift going up against the Washington Commanders. Looks like one of the most talented running backs in the league, in my opinion. Accelerating through the hole way faster than most running backs in the league right now. I'm loving to see it. Runs behind one of the most elite offensive lines in the league, which is probably the biggest factor for him and his success that he's had so far this year. Offensive line just springs him free. Swift does the rest. It's very fun. For that offense when he's working as he has been working. He's got 2 130-plus yard games rushing the football. It's not pretty to see that Commanders have a pretty talented front four with like Chase Young, Montez Sweat, Jonathan something. A very good front four that they have, but they haven't been, performing to my liking, at least, when I'm saying that like they could actually stop a guy up that is supposed to have a good day. I don't really think so. They've already given up 98 yards to James Cook on the ground, 62 yards to James Conner on the ground. With the James Conner, obviously a very hard runner, but Cardinals' offensive line is, nothing compared to this defensive line. And then they also gave up 122 yards of rushing to the Broncos' offense and like 33 points. So I definitely expect the Philadelphia Eagles to come out here and punch them in their mouth and, knock a bunch of teeth out and make it very ugly. And Swift being a big part of that happening. Swift currently running back number 13 after only having one touch in week 1, 0 fantasy points in week 1. Still is running back 13, which is a very good sign. 175 yards week 2, 130 in week 3, and we really haven't seen like his pass catching prowess, which is honestly the best part of DeAndre Swift's game. So kind of interesting. Think he just automatically gets the nod to be the featured back in this backfield until, his performance says otherwise, because, we did not see anything good from Kenneth Gainwell as he was playing. He was obviously coming off that rib injury, but he got to touch the ball like 14 times and didn't really do anything. Meanwhile, Swift only touched the ball like 14 times, put up 130 yards, so I think he's kind of putting Kenneth out of a job, probably starting here in week 4. If Gainwell gets a lot of carries, I'll be very, very surprised. And it's very obvious, too, that the Eagles are at their best when DeAndre Swift is on the field. So, like him to have a pretty good game against the Commanders. Don't think that they're going to be able to do enough to stop him. His acceleration is just too much right now. Guys, when we come back, we're going to hit another quick break, and then we're going to talk about quarterback matchups. Super excited to talk about my quarterback matchups for this week 4, and then don't forget my final segment is going to be best bets, so make sure you stay for my best bets. What's good, guys? What is happening? Let's get the camera right. Talking about quarterbacks now. Going through my favorite quarterback matchups. And then in my next segment, we'll be talking about best bets. But can't rush it. Got to make sure to let the slow burn happen and talk about the quarterbacks first. This guy throws a very, very, very pretty deep ball. Love him. Justin Herbert going up against the Raiders in week 4. Just a beautiful matchup for this guy. We obviously saw what the Raiders led up for Kenny Pickett. Kenny Pickett was, launching the deep ball, finding all the holes in their coverage, and it was just beautiful to see. He gave up, Raiders defense gave up 235 yards and 2 touchdowns to Pickett, who's been struggling this year. Finally found a good game against them. Also, if it, makes any more difference, he gave up 274 yards and 3 touchdowns to Josh Allen, the Raiders defense. So their coverage is looking like Swiss cheese at the moment. Definitely not locked up. And I see Justin Herbert looking for all the downfield weapons in this game, having probably a big old field day, in my opinion. Obviously, we got Mike Williams, who just went down with the ACL, but don't think it's going to be too much for this Chargers offense and Justin Herbert to still get it done without Mike Williams. Keenan Allen currently sitting at the fantasy football wide receiver 2 position, hooping with the greatest. They also have Quentin Johnson, who is their first-round pick, who's really, really good. Joshua Palmer, who's consummate professional and put up a pretty good season for them. Gerald Everett, who's literally been around for forever, too. And 6'8", Donald Parham Jr. at tight end, who's, their red zone threat. So they're pretty covered as it pertains to wide receivers. Pretty excited to see what Quentin Johnson is going to be able to do. Their first-round pick hasn't really, found a way to have a really big game. And I think he's going to be stepping into, the kind of wide receiver 2, wide receiver 3 position for this Chargers offense that is very explosive. Obviously, Chargers defense, we wonder about them. We know that they're struggling very, very badly, but their offense is not struggling really at all to put up points. Even without Austin Eckler, they're doing just fine. Found a way to pull out a win last week, which was really good. But I love Justin Herbert. Could definitely see on the other side of the ball, just because the Chargers defense is so bad, I could definitely see Jimmy Garoppolo having a pretty big day himself in Week 4. This is my favorite guy. This is my favorite guy that I wanted to talk about the whole time. Everybody is giving up on Justin Fields, and it is time to buy low on my man Justin Fields. He's ready, man. He is absolutely ready, and it is time. He's going up against the Broncos on Sunday. It's about to go down. I just feel like the Justin Fields time bomb has been ticking and ticking and ticking. And then at some point that ticking time bomb is ready to boom. It's going to be this week, guys. Broncos are absolutely in shambles after Week 3, giving up 70 to the Dolphins. Can't wait to see what Justin Fields does. Broncos literally gave up 350 rushing yards in Week 3 to the Miami Dolphins, 350 rushing yards. So I think that Justin Fields will find a way to, he said he's just going to be playing with his instincts this week. That's literally what he said in the media. Find a way to, make a big play. Got a comment, already a sub. I traded Mike Evans for CeeDee Lamb. You got rid of Mike Evans for CeeDee. I really like what Mike Evans is doing, and I think he's definitely the favorite target. It looks like he's playing for that contract right now. But CeeDee's just as good. He will put up a lot of points. I don't hate it. It kind of just feels like, 1-for-1. If you thought you saw upside and you like that guy, then why not, We'll see what happens. I'll definitely keep that in mind, try to follow that for you. But, also the Broncos, literally the week before, gave up 87 yards and 2 touchdowns to Brian Robinson. So they're just giving it up through the ground game exclusively, and they do not care. Obviously got rid of Bradley Chubb last season, who was a big run stopper for them. Broncos linebackers Jewell and Frank Clark are also out, so they're going to have even less protection, just being able to help out against this Justin Fields and Rashawn Johnson. Everybody that's going to be back there trying to attack them for the Bears rushing game. I think we finally see that big Justin Fields field day that everybody was so happy to see last year. The couple times that it happened, he went for 140, 150, 160 yards in 3 different games. And, I was like, bro, I really want that guy on my fantasy team. Finally got him this year, and he has not lived up to the hype in any way. I think that somehow he's going to find a way to live up to the hype. Wrote this down too. Bears are struggling bad, but Justin Fields has really taken that accountability to be the leader for this Bears team, and especially the vocal leader in the press, just telling everybody, just just relax. We're only a couple weeks in. I know we're getting killed, but he said that literally he's just gonna play off his instincts this week and just play football how he knows how, and I love to hear it. He's gonna be one of the guys in my best bets for sure. I will tell you guys that. Then finally, we got we went Justin Herbert, Justin Fields, Justin, and now we're going with Geno Smith. Geno Smith is playing Monday Night Football versus the Giants, and Geno Smith has been quietly activated the last couple weeks, going for like 300-plus yard games. In both of those, he is quarterback number 15 in fantasy football right now. So after a pretty weak week 1, I think he had like 9 fantasy points. He's been picking it up, putting up the 300-yard games, and he really needs to because he obviously just signed this 3-year, $105 million contract. They have invested in him, so it would not behoove him to, not show up and not play good when it matters. He just had a field day against the Panthers with like 296 yards, so pretty close to 300 yards. He had 328 yards in his week 2 matchup too. I think he'll pick apart this, really bottom of the barrel type DBs, bottom of the barrel defense with his explosive offensive weapons that he has. Obviously DK, Lockett, Kenneth Walker, all very good fantasy options to have. Giants defense, fourth worst coverage in the league. Giants defense, sixth worst. Goodness gracious, sixth worst tackling in the league, and they're also getting the third worst defensive grade by Pro Football Focus. So definitely not good outings for that Giants defense by any means at all. They also gave up 228 yards to Josh Dobbs, gave up 310 yards to Brock Purdy. Geno coming off those 2 300-plus yard games, not 300-plus, but very, very close. 328 week 2, 296 week 3. DK's on fire right now. Lockett is firing too. He has 2 touchdowns. Everyone's gonna eat. They have so many weapons that are good, and they hardly even use, like Noah Fant, Parkinson, and then I think it's Field Yates' favorite guy is Jake Bobo. He caught a touchdown. Kind of early in week 3, so that was really cool to see. But yeah, guys, those are my quarterbacks that I'm loving this week. Come back with me, and we're gonna talk best bets. I'll make sure to get y'all right. I put my own hard-earned money on the line for these best bets, so that I did my research and I was in there. I can't wait to bring them to y'all. So come back. Goodness. What is up, ladies and gentlemen? We are back, and if you stay to the end, I'm here to give you my best bets of the week. Best bets, I got 4 of them for y'all. So let's just get right into it. Talking about best bets, I'm starting with Justin Fields. He's the thumbnail, and I had to give him that credit because I think he's ready to pop off this week. Not going to take him for too much, though. Not going to get too high. Maybe on some long shots I'll do something like that, but with my straights, just going for Justin Fields, 60 yards in his Week 4 matchup versus the Broncos. I think this should be a very simple task for him to get done this week. Very simple. He saw 11 rushes for 47 yards in Week 3, and there was multiple times where he was just about to get out the pocket, had it up here, was about to tuck, and he would get caught by the toes or ankle bitten. If he would have had one more good run that he didn't get caught, he absolutely would have been over 60 yards in this game against a much better defense. Denver literally just gave up 350 yards and 70 points to the Miami Dolphins. So they want to give it up. Like I said, also Brian Robinson ran over all of them very badly, and the dude is just the best athlete on the field at all times. Most likely he just happens to be a quarterback, but he is the best athlete on the field, probably the fastest guy too. You could play it up to 100 if you're very, very crazy, just because of the potential that he will probably break off a 50, 60-yard run at least one time during the week. But I like him right at 60 yards, 60 rushing yards, Justin Fields. For my first bet, like I said, guys, I put my own bread on this. I'm not just saying these things to say it. Definitely like Justin Fields this week. And we're only doing guys that we're talking about all show, just so y'all know. Only doing guys we're talking about all show. Next guy, we got DeAndre Swift. One more time. Just think he's hot right now, so why not play him? I like playing DeAndre Swift this week. He has an amazing O-line, best PFF ranked O-line currently, and they just make holes for this guy. He just bursts and accelerates right through, gets his 15, 20 yards. He's had multiple 15-yard carries. And just looks like the most accelerative, fast, explosive running back in the league right now, kind of. I'm really not seeing anyone else explode through holes like DeAndre Swift is. Crushed this number, 64.5 rushing yards in both of the last 2 weeks, and that's even with Gainwell kind of working into his workload. So I'm just loving it. Gainwell was very unimpressive in Week 3 too. Obviously, coming off the rib injury, got 14 touches with no yards against Tampa Bay, who was a pretty bad rush defense. So I think I like Swift this week. You could take him up to 100 just because he's done it so many times this season, but more like him at the 64.5 type of number for DeAndre Swift this week. Next guy. What more can I say about the $100 million man, Geno Smith? He is that guy. I love me some Geno Smith, and he's going up against the Giants this week, who have shown no propensity to stop anybody from doing anything in football games at all, and they only got him at 249.5 passing yards. I love that for Geno. Giants have an awful PFF rating as it pertains to their coverage and third worst defense in general. I don't see if somehow Geno doesn't get this number, Kenneth Walker is going to have an absolute day himself and go for 150 yards or something, because yards will be had in this game by that Seahawks team. They have DK Metcalf, who's a very big, strong receiver. If you don't know who that is, he's extremely strong, and I think he's just heating up right now. Coming into his own, advantages really everywhere. I don't think any of their corners, their DBs, match up with DK or Lockett. They also have Smith and Jigba, Fant, Parkinson, who they move all over the field. Plus, the Rams will literally have the worst coverage in the entire league. So just too low for Geno Smith. 250 passing yards should just be cake and easy, I do believe. Finally, guys, we got probably the easiest bet that I think that you can just take, and it's just going to be a simple little thing. It's going to be Justin Jefferson over 100 yards versus the Panthers. Man, talking about DK Metcalf just ate up against the Panthers. 112 yards. Olave just put up 104 yards without, in the first half, they didn't even do anything against that Panthers squad, and then he still ended up with 104. Should I start Zay Flowers or Josh Palmer? Eek, that's definitely a toughie. Definitely a toughie. I think Zay Flowers just has the potential to make that big play at any time, so I would start Flowers. But Palmer's also a good option because he's going to move into like that wide receiver 2, wide receiver 3 spot. And then for a different league, Calvin Ridley or Courtland Sutton. You got to stick with Calvin Ridley right now. I was talking about Courtland Sutton in my sleepers, and I do like him this week too. But Trevor Lawrence was like going to bat for Calvin Ridley, saying that he's going to like stick with him. So I think he'll get like 8+ targets this week at least. But yeah, we got Justin Jefferson, 100+ yards. It's literally at like -114. -130 depending on what book that you're going to play it at, but this seems very simple and very easy for him to do. He's already gone 150, 150, 149, so he seems content to go ahead and set that number. I think that I think it's currently sitting at 102.5 yards. It'll definitely be going up very soon. I bet it'll have to go up to like 120 yards or something like that because he's just going to be blowing this number out of the water constantly. He hasn't had under 12 targets one time this season in his first 3 weeks. He's 2 times better than any other wide receiver on his team. He's obviously going to be the first option at all times. He has an unlimited target share. It's like Kirk, if I want the ball, I'm getting it. Like, hey, throw me the ball this play or else. And I'm sure Kirk is like, oh, no, like, okay, I got you. Not under 12 targets once. That's very, very impressive. He's going up against terrible competition in this Panthers DB room. The only real elite DB or like anybody that is of note is Jeremy Chin, who's still like a young guy. Probably can, he's definitely not as good as Justin Jefferson in any way, but can get a little antsy as it pertains to, coverage and making mistakes. I don't think it's above him to make, some coverage mistakes. So for all those reasons, that's why I like Justin Jefferson. I think this line will just have to continue to go up. It doesn't really make sense that after 3 150-yard games that you're just going to leave him at 100. Like, he's probably going to have 200 this week against a really, really bad team. But, guys, thank you, Mr. Prune, absolutely. Anytime. I'm here Monday through Friday. 7 p.m. is when I go on. Make sure you guys tune in for the Friday video because I'm always giving the best bets for the week. Want to make sure you guys have some money in your pocket. But yeah, if there's no other questions or anything, I'm going to hop off. And I appreciate y'all for staying with me. I hope you have a great Sunday. I hope you have a great weekend in general. Make sure to be safe out there, guys.